The Lord be with you and your children, your brothers and sisters, your spouse, all your relatives and friends. May God be with us as this week unfolds, particularly as we reflect upon the Sermon on the Mount. As I mentioned early in the week, it's more than just the Beatitudes. And it's more than just a collection of do's and don'ts. Monday and Tuesday, we looked at the way in which we are called to love those who do not return our love, a moral way of living a life of forgiveness. Today, the Sermon on the Mount takes a turn toward the importance of spiritual practices. What is that we do that is going to draw us nearer to Christ? How we can purify our relationship with God. This is a reading that comes to us annually on Ash Wednesday. And we find in the reading, which I'm not going to read today, but you can find online, the reading is the story, of course, his homily against those who are so caught up in their own external practice that they fail to live within the heart. Spiritual writers speak of these as the three pillars of the Christian faith: prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. To fast means not simply to deny myself so that I can lose a few pounds. To fast means that I must put myself more in communion with those who are truly fasting, those who are hungering for food. And so many in our world have no idea where their next meal will come from. So even though we live in the wealthiest and the most abundant nation on earth, we should learn to discipline ourselves and become more and more conscious of those less fortunate than ourselves. A second of the pillars that hold up the spiritual life is the pillar of giving to alms to the poor. Almsgiving, we call it. One of the great church fathers once said that when we fast, someone else should eat in our place. And so we are caught up in a way of life where we learn to self-discipline, where we learn to say no to ourselves, so that we can say yes to another. I fast so that another can eat. St. Cyprian, I think, once said that the second coat that you have hanging in your closet belongs to the one who has none. Both of these virtues, if you will, the virtue of fasting, the discipline of fasting, the discipline of regularly giving alms, are fundamental to who we are as a Christian people. How much of the gospel we find Jesus preaching to us the importance of loving the least of our brothers and sisters, loving the poor and the hungry, the lonely, the tired, the imprisoned. All of those beautiful qualities that are summed up really in the command that Jesus gives us today to give to the poor, to give alms generously. The third of these pillars that are fundamental to the Christian life: prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. I've saved the first to last, prayer, because all of these flow from this commitment that we make to Almighty God. We will see when we reflect further tomorrow on the Lord's Prayer just how deep this call to prayer goes in terms of uniting our hearts to the heart of Christ and to the heart of our brothers and sisters. But today, just look very quietly and prayerfully at your life and consider the ways that you have learned to say no to yourself, how you've been able to fast so that others might eat in your place. And consider the generosity that you've shown to those in need. Will God see you as a person who's been generous to the poor and the weak and the needy? These are two of the powerful qualities that Jesus looks for in living the Christian life. And to that we include prayer, which we will continue to reflect upon in tomorrow's meditation. May God bless you and your loved ones.